title in front of your name?
Haven't fully wrapped my head around what has all happened. It's really exciting. Very proud of it. So kind of hearing it next to my name almost feels like a sigh of relief. Finally, the goals are all coming together, and it's kind of a solid piece of proof that we're heading in the right direction. So it's nice to hear.
Maybe kind of walk us through Saturday's race, kind of the race plan, how you felt it went, and just kind of your thoughts as running and maybe the moments afterwards.
Before, I think anyone can attest. I mean, Shane was working mostly with Tony, but spending time with our assistant coach, Will, lots of nerves in the morning. Paxton was in the car. I'm sure you probably noticed. So lots of nerves, but good nerves. The pressure is privilege. And so it was nice to feel that way because sometimes I've had bad races when I don't care. So the nerves are just acknowledging the fact that I'm excited to be here and I'm ready. Going into the race, I felt really good. Sometimes during warm-ups, kind of feeling some of the travel, some of the weekly mileage leading up to it, but I felt really fresh, and so that was another piece that was just kind of a sigh of relief, like, okay, we're heading in the right direction. There's one piece that's fitting together. So it's kind of nice to warm up by myself and just be with myself and really think about, I know what we need to do. We have a roadmap. I know exactly who I need to go find, who I need to race with. There's nothing new. It's all RMAC girls, right? We're all up front. And so the only stressful part about the race was just getting out. There's, 200 people next to you that are just as fast. So being willing and being brave enough to just go out hard. That was not fun. It was very unsettling to feel how fast we were going. I think the 600 split we hit was equivalent to like a 225 800, which is, we were moving at the start. But within pretty quickly, when the race kind of collapsed in on itself, I realized that I was exactly where I needed to be. So that was nice to hear or see where I was in the race. So a sigh of relief early on. And then beyond that, it was just a matter of clicking everything off and just staying firm in my position, not getting scared, not letting myself fall back. And luckily, there's a lot of familiar faces. And at that point in the year, we're not working against each other. We're all working together. So having friends next to me along, one of the girls, Zoe Baker on Mines, ran up next to me. She said, "It's okay. You got this." And so just having people like that around you is amazing. So honestly, I had a blast and a half racing. That was super cool. It's beautiful on the sound. It was a chilly morning, but I love this course. And so all around, a lot of fun after the nerves settled down.
Shane, the team went there in October and obviously proved beneficial for Kira. Kind of, is that going to be a staple in the schedule now to always go to that and maybe kind of talk to your thoughts about that part of the schedule making and what that did for Kira and Tony last week?
Yeah, I think unfortunately for Tony, it was a little colder that morning for the men, and he just never really quite got warmed up, and so just kind of had a tough race. But looking forward, for him, I know he's going to bounce back in track, and so we're looking forward with that. It was, the races weren't too far, different time-wise, but like the ground was covered in like probably a couple centimeters of snow when the men were racing, and then it like literally all melted by the time the women were racing. And so probably like a 5, almost maybe 10-degree temperature difference made a huge difference. Like I think all the men looked super uncomfortable out there, where like all the women looked pretty good, especially all the RMAC women. And so, but yeah, I think generally it's something I would like to add. If it's on a coast again, it'll be a little hard. Part of the reason the men didn't qualify that many teams in our region this year was because a lot of teams went there, and we're going to need to start strategizing us with the other RMAC schools on who we're racing in the regular season, because like the women took I think 8 teams, and all 8 of them finished in the top 14 teams, and that kind of speaks to the strength of our region. But the men, we only took 5, but they were all in the top 15, and so it's exciting, and it's like we race the best people every single week, and that's why like it really wasn't a shock for Kira, because like you go to the national meet, you think it's going to be this big this bigger deal. But then she, looking around is like, that's the same people I race every single weekend. And so, having people like Zoe Baker next to her, like someone that like has done it, and being like maybe 2 miles into the race, whenever that was that you passed her, like, and her like calmly saying like, like you got it, and she kind of held her ground the whole way. So she got out and right around 30th and ended up in 29th. And so kind of held her ground the whole way. And there was also 30 seconds ish between her and third place. And so that's a kind of a really cool thing too, to know that, that she's up there now competing with the best of the best. And, I think that the sigh of relief of getting the All-American, like I had to wait till my last race in college. So that was stressful, but yeah. But no, I mean, it is something. And next year is, I think it's Missouri Southern is who's hosting the pre-national meet. And so, a lot of those teams from those central regions are gonna be there, and that's really who we need to race to get more teams from our region in. Because I at the end of the day, and I'm biased, but I think our men and women's team both would have done fairly well there this past weekend. And I know that our women are just super young, and next year Kira keeps progressing the way she is, our other girls keep progressing the way they are. I think that we're going to get the goal is to get both teams there next year. But we got to do our conference and our region has to do ourselves some favors by racing the right teams during the season to get more teams in, because we have probably 8 to 10 teams from our region that deserve to go every year. But having only 5 on the guys' side is pretty disappointing. But I don't know, our women showed that they could, and I don't know, just really happy for Kira. It was an exciting race, and watching her just kind of get after it from the gun was cool to see. So,
with having so many RMAC runners there and that comfort level, did that kind of ease the shock, like Coach was saying, for you, and just kind of knowing that, hey, this is just like conference or just like regionals?
It is, especially so early on in the season. We start with our little meets, with our little dual meets versus Western. Those don't feel like a big deal at the time, but in a way, that's definitely like a good way to prime for the remainder of the season. So these teams that are national contenders are a lot less intimidating, and eventually over time almost become kind of teammates. Like, I wouldn't say we even really have a rivalry with Western. Like, we kind of work with them. It might not feel that way on the start line, but they're awesome to work with, so it is kind of nice. I know exactly where everyone's going to be. And then we slowly start adding teams in with conference and then regionals and seeing different people, and then even at pre-nats a little bit too. So yeah, having all those familiar faces out there was fantastic. I know how everyone races. We've all been racing together long enough. We basically all know each other, how we run. So I was able to kind of predict, okay, the CSU Pueblo girls, those girls can finish really strong. So if I need to kind of be a little bit ahead of them at the beginning, they're probably going to slowly tick their way up towards me. I know Zoe is also kind of a progressive runner. Katie likes to run from the front. So just knowing how everybody races, I know exactly where I need to fit myself in the puzzle. So having those girls as phenomenal teammates as competition makes the season a great progression and makes nationals maybe a little scary, but a lot more exciting to get out there with some other amazing runners.
What do you now take into the transition into track, and other than just the confidence and fitness level that you have?
So the transition this year is a lot faster than normal, as in Saturday is our first track race. So admittedly, I'm not super stoked about the quick turnaround, but capitalizing off of cross-country fitness is making this, will make it nice, because that's half the battle with track, is just regaining all of that, the foot speed, the endurance, just putting all those things back together. So having already laid out that groundwork is going to be really nice. I understand why we're doing it. It makes sense. So it'll be, I'd say, a smoother transition than normal, which will be a really good way to headway into the season and make come spring a little less stressful, because we've already started the process rather than starting from scratch.
I guess kind of take that to the next level for the team as a whole, and other distance runners going this week, and then kind of the month off before the next track meet for you. Yeah,
and so like Kira saying, she's kind of going right into track, which is, this will be her first time doing that, but that's, the girls that she's talking about that are at that level, they're all racing this weekend too. They're all capitalizing off that fitness, and in Division II, it's all based off what you run over the course of the year. So if you run a certain time over the year, then you're in. And so if we can get a qualifier early for the national meet, or like a close qualifier where we can hit like a high provisional, that sets us up to not stress about it as much once we really do start hitting it in the end of January. So if we can get it now, take a little break, then we can really focus on another event. So she's going to run a 3K this weekend, which is definitely going to feel like a sprint, but when she's been training for 6K. But really, it also kind of fits into what we've been doing. Sorry. It fits into what we've been doing because we've been tapering and doing speed stuff anyway. So, I think she's ready to roll. We've got a young group of men who she's actually been kind of training with for cross, the MD boys. So we've got some freshman guys that are going to go up and race this weekend. So we're excited to see how they're going to do. And then the majority of our group's taking a break right now. We've got a couple guys coming back. Nate Sanchez, who's injured all cross season, so looking forward to see him race this weekend. And then Kevin Degree is a guy that raced really, really well during cross, and he's the only kind of guy that's kind of continuing into track. So he'll race. Those guys will both race. Kevin will take a break, and looking forward to get some good times during track. And I know track is next, but I think on the men's side, we're with distance, we're going to try and contribute to getting as close as we probably ever have to bringing home an RMAC title this year in indoor. So indoor and outdoor. So that's the goal. So I'm sure Brad's going to reiterate that in a little bit. So.
Kira, for you, you've already talked about how the familiarity with the RMAC schools, and you sort of know where people are going to be and you feel comfortable with who's around you. But the national meet like this, there's still a little wrinkle where some people have their entire teams with them, and you are, by yourself in an individual block. Does that change your mindset at all in the race, knowing that you don't have your teammates that you're normally racing with, or were you able to just sort of say, I'm running my race no matter what, and it was more of the same?
I'd say initially that was a little bit of source of stress, realizing that I am going to be on the starting line alone, because there is that energy of having your girls with you. So that was a little sad at first. I wasn't going to be able to do a little hype circle. I wasn't going to be able to, talk to any of my teammates and realize it's all going to be okay. We're all working together to the same goal. But ultimately, on the other hand, like having those RMAC girls, I've talked to so many of them that it almost feels like they are part of my team anyway. So specifically the other individual from our region, she's another RMAC girl from Fort Lewis. We chatted a bunch before the race, like how do we want to go out? How do we want to work together? Which was really nice because she kind of at the start line fell back a little bit, and I was able to look at her and say, Kate, you need to go. And she did, and ended up having a great race. So I guess it's kind of more of a how you perceive it type thing. And it did take a little bit of effort on my behalf to really think about, it feels like I'm alone, but ultimately I'm not. So I'm definitely grateful for them, but I really hope to put 6 more Mesa jerseys on the start line next year.
Yeah, and so sort of leading into that for both you guys, we've talked about how loaded our region is, 8 of the top 14 women's teams, 6 of the top 10 were all RMAC schools. But this is a big hurdle, getting an individual All-American. It's the first one in almost a decade for the program. So as you continue your Colorado Mesa career and then, coach, as you are looking at the future of this program, what does it mean for Colorado Mesa cross country to sort of check off this box and have an All-American, as you guys are, no doubt looking to step up your goals for next year?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about like our goals like since day one she got here, and the other girls that we have and the guys that we have. Like we talk about this on a weekly basis, and I think all of us are ultra competitive people, which is why, ultimately why they're here. And all of us want to make that immediate transition to being one of the top teams in the country right now. But, I think taking a step back and looking at it, like we made a lot of progress in the last couple of years. This is, again, like you said, the first time that we've had someone be an All-American. And in a decade, and the first person that's even qualified individually since I believe 2006 or 16. Sorry, 2016. And so, we are definitely going in the right direction. On the women's side, we're really young. On the men's side, we got a lot of talent there. It's just a numbers game and how our region and our conference helps out our region get more people to nationals. But taking a step back, we saw so much progress this year from all of our girls, Kira included, obviously. But even like our number 2, 3, 4 girls, like based on what they did last year, they're like a minute to 2 minutes faster a piece in the 6K. And so it wasn't enough to get us there this year, but I think we're all juniors freshmen and sophomore this year eligibility wise, and so we've got a team that I think is built for future success. Now we just need to kind of reel that in and just do it. Yeah. And this is a good first step. So.
Okay, you guys, we'll finish this up with question of the week. So it's December. We're firmly in the middle of Christmas music season. So hit me with some of your favorite Christmas songs, Christmas carols. What are your what's on your Christmas playlist right now that you guys are bumping?
Sure, don't want to ask you what color tennis ball is. I'd say obviously All I Want for Christmas Is You, Mariah Carey. It's a staple. I do try and kind of avoid Christmas music. I got some retail PTSD. So it's like blared since like Thanksgiving. So Mariah Carey, or I feel like Last Christmas. That one's kind of slept on. It goes hard. I'm a huge fan.
My wife is a huge Christmas music person and has been bumping Christmas music since like Thanksgiving. So I'm like, I can do it for like a week maybe. But I've got one for people to look up. Tom Waits, What's He Building in There? It's about Santa Claus. You can look it up. It's not really a Christmas song, but if you listen to it, listen to the lyrics, it can be a Christmas song, guys.